have done justice to the topic. Suffice it to say that I would just build on some of the things they said. And 2 points they each made, which I think is very critical in our engagement on the issue of one, Palestine, Israel, and the recent Iran, Israel, and the entire geopolitics within the Gulf area. One, it has nothing to do with religion, and I think that people need to understand this clearly. And I say this, if you look at the religious, demarcations of both within occupied Palestine, which is known as Israel now, and where the Palestinians have been excluded to be, majority of them, is Gaza. There are somewhere in the West Bank and Ramallah and other areas. Gaza is a refugee center by the very people who were killed, hounded when Israel was created. So you are a refugee in your own country. Currently in Israel, they have about 73.6% Jews, and have about 18% Muslims, and just 1.9% Christians, and those you call the Zeruj, or the Jews, which is about 1.5%. So there are more even Christians in Palestine than you have it in Israel. There are a lot of similarities between Muslims and Christians, which are all supported by scripture. It is incumbent on you, for you to call yourself a Muslim, you must believe in Jesus Christ, which is Isa. The only disagreement is the Trinity. Either that you are enjoined to believe that Jesus Christ, whereas Muslims see him as a prophet, Christians see him as one God, the Son, and then the Holy Spirit. That is where you have the distinction. But the point of departure between Judaism and Christianity is at the core of Christianity. They don't even believe that Jesus Christ was even a prophet or a Messiah. He's nothing. In fact, as a matter of fact, if you read in the Torah, they describe Mary as a whore and describe Jesus Christ as a bastard. That's how the Torah Jews, that is the core of their value. There was a survey which was done, and I have the videos, to ask Jews on the street of Israel whether they would feel comfortable to pray in the church, in a mosque. All of them said they would feel comfortable to pray in the mosque than in the church. So there are some commonalities between Islam and Judaism, but there is absolutely no between Judaism and Christianity. But there is so much between Islam and Christianity, and also between that. So I think that we need to get this very, very clearly. It is incumbent on every Muslim that when you give birth to a child, you circumcise. That is the position of the Torah. The position of Islam, that you believe in just one God, we don't believe in Trinity, is the same position of the Torah. The position of Muslims, that you don't even eat pork, even though in the Bible too we are enjoined not to eat pork. There are a lot of scriptures to that. So I agree absolutely. It has nothing to do with religion. As a matter of fact, if you take Lebanon have majority. If you want to take one single religious belief, Christians seems to be the majority, because among the Muslims they are divided between Shia and Sunni. And you have Christians on one block, which is almost 45% of the population in Lebanon. And the 55 Muslims are sharply divided between Sunni and Shia. And I remember during the Lebanon-Israel conflict, where many people were killed, and you could tell that out of 3 people who were killed, 1 was bound to be a Christian. And these were the people who were killed. Yet you had even pastors who were absolutely uninformed. They preach and then they say, we stand with Israel. I think that people need to get some of these points very clear. The other thing has to do with the support of this particular conflict we have. It is very clear, Jordan gave their airspace for Israel to attack what's the name, Iran. Jordan is a Muslim country. And in fact, more than half of the people who stay there are from Palestine. Azerbaijan is predominantly a Muslim country. They aided Israel. In fact, Israel gets about 40% of their oil from Azerbaijan. The oil passes through Turkey another Muslim country to Israel. Whereas the war was being prosecuted, Israel could not have survived without the oil they get from these Muslim countries. So I think we need to get some of these things very, very clearly. If you look at Palestine, over 90% of the people who live in Palestine, even though they are Muslims, but they are also, majority of them are in the Sunni sect. Iran is supposed to be Shia. And let me tell you the sharp difference between the Sunni and the Shia. It has nothing to do with the core functions and principles of the religion. It has to do with which particular person who was supposed to be the caliph. They believe that the heir apparent, the Sunni believe the heir apparent was supposed to be Ali. And Ali's mother was a Persian. Mind you, Iranians are not Arabs. They are Persians. So it has nothing to do with the 5 pillars of Islam, the articles of faith, what would make you a Muslim. It has nothing, the differences between Shia and Sunni has nothing to do with that. It has to do with principles, with administration, with some of the values, but as to the core functions. But sometimes the division is so intense that each sometimes feel very comfortable to even deal with Christians and other people in other faith than dealing with their Muslim brothers and sisters because of the division of Shia and Sunni. And let's get this point very clear. So if you look at Yemen, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, they are Shias. If you look at the Yemen, the Houthis, they are Shias. If you come to Syria, majority of the people who live in Syria were Sunni, but the leadership of the political leadership was Shia. If you go to Bahrain, majority of them are Shia, but the leadership are Sunni. So religion, when I hear people talk about religion as one of the reasons why I get completely confused, it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the geopolitics of the area. Of course, sometimes people write at the back of religion because they know religious beliefs are emotionally driven. So if I use religion, I could get the support. And I'll give you a classical example. When Iraq invaded, Iraq had problems with Iran. It had nothing to do with religion. When Saddam Hussein, who was described in all manner of names, had nothing to do with religion. Because in any case, Saddam Hussein, who is a Sunni, but majority of the people in Iraq were Shia, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. Kuwait is predominantly a Sunni country. But when Saddam Hussein was at the back burner, then he used religion as a basis for his fight, because people will always hide behind religion to justify why they do one or the other thing. But let me also make this point very clear. On the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which was indeed started sometimes in the 1968 and it was signed and entered into in 1970. What it simply means is that those who already have nuclear weapons, no one will have it again. United States came with nuclear weapons in 1945. Russia came, I think, 4 years after that, 1949. Britain, 1950. Then France and other countries indeed followed. Now, these countries who indeed had nuclear weapons, and you can describe them as the victors of the Second World War. If you look at the United Nations system, and there's something we call the what's the name? Consensus. Is it Islamic? I've forgotten the name. There's a term. Now, if you look at the United Nations, you have 15 member states, the Security Council. 5 are permanent. 5 are permanent. And for a decision to be taken at the United Nations Security Council, you must have 9 voting for that decision. And out of that 9, all the 5 members, the permanent members, must all agree. If one says no, that will not be binding. So clearly, the United Nations was crafted to satisfy the victors of the Second World War. In terms of military might and economic might, countries have indeed gone today. Germany is the biggest economic country biggest economy in Europe. Germany is not a member of the Security Council. Turkey is not a member of the Security Council. There are countries, China. China is a member. India is not a member of the Security Council. And there have been some concerns. Africa even has a position. And we feel that for fairness to be seen at the Security Council, which is the highest decision-making body of the United Nations when it comes to security matters, the authority to declare whether there should be a war or there should be a military intervention in any country across the globe must be taken by the Security Council. Then you have majority of the countries are not members. So the issue of Iran and Israel has absolutely nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with Arab or not Arab. It has to do with power play. Israel is not a signatory to the NPT. They are not. But Israel has never given access to anybody to find out whether they indeed have nuclear weapons or not. When it is established that they do have. Israel, in my opinion, is not a country, it's a project. Yes. It's a project of the Western world. Because why? Iran consistently said they do not have weapons of mass destruction. And mind you, the NPT was done to ensure that those who already have, nuclear weapons and chemical weapons, no other country should have it. What would have been fair was that all those who had, let's destroy everything, so that we know that nobody has it. But the NPT was not seeking to do that. The NPT was saying that those who have it, no other country should have it. You have all the 5 member countries have nuclear weapons, apart from 3 or 4. North Korea, which was a member of the NPT signatory, they withdrew in 2003, and by 2006 they tested their first nuclear weapon. You have Pakistan. Pakistan had nuclear weapons in the 70s. You have India that has nuclear weapons. And you have Israel. So these are the 4 countries of the United Nations who are not members of the Security Council, who are not the 5, permanent security members, who all have nuclear weapons. And Iran consistently said we do not have. Open have more than 100% access to IAEA, to come and witness. And they were monitoring. There was also even an agreement between the United States of America and the Western world and Iran, that they had 24/7 monitoring. Now, you must enrich. There's nothing wrong with enriching, if you like, uranium. You can enrich uranium. Other countries have uranium at such enriched level. Ghana, we can also have. We used to have. And this is something I'll be looking at. GAIC, and under the previous administration, for some reasons, they shipped this to China. It's something I'll be looking at. They shipped the uranium we had to China. I just got the information. And it's something I would insist the proper investigation should be done in that matter. Many other advanced countries, because you use enriched uranium for power, for nuclear power. For research. In fact, Ghana, if you look at the Atomic Energy Commission, we are working on towards nuclear. In fact, if Nkrumah administration was not criminally truncated, we should have been dependent on nuclear as a source of energy. Because if you look at GAIC today, they are selling GAIC's land left, right, and center. It's a matter I'm looking into. So I'm saying that all those things, there's nothing wrong with enriching uranium for civil purposes, for domestic purposes, to be able to have stable energy. You go to the Western world, that you don't see light out and others because they all depend on nuclear energy as a source of energy for their industry, for their domestic use. Now, Iran says that this is what we use ours for, and there was no question whatsoever. Just few weeks before what happened, Tesselgaba, what's the name? This guy, the Donald Trump's secretary for security, Tesselgaba. Okay. She even indeed in the congressional appearance indicated clearly that all the security agencies and the intelligence that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. As a matter of fact, the mullah, the religious and spiritual leader, Ayatollah has not recommended that they do that. And Ayatollah's principle, he thinks that it is un-Islamic. It is ungodly for you to have nuclear weapons, and that he never gave any command. 3 weeks. Now, America insisted, and it was started by Donald Trump when he shredded the agreement between America and Iran under President Obama. He shredded it. Now Iran says, okay, if he shredded it, then we now have the liberty to do whatever we want to do. Iran never had up to the level they claimed they had. Now, if you observed, President Netanyahu, every single year he gives a date. In fact, 20 years ago, he said Iran was just left with some weeks to have nuclear weapons. 10 years later, they are left with 3 months to have nuclear weapons, repeatedly. And he said that in many countries, and those countries, America had military intervention. Classical example is Iraq, Libya. We all saw what happened. Syria, and we have had this. So it is about the interest. And Netanyahu was virtually, he was being prosecuted. before the conflict we have in between Palestine and Israel. So I think that we need to look at them in that perspective. Last point, our position, our foreign policy position has never been compromised. And when my brother said if he decides to be a Jew today, Judaism today, he will be given free access in, you may not because you are black. Ethiopian Jews, who are the real Jews, they were given a vaccine every 3 months, which is known as the Depo-Provera, every 3 months, to sterilize them so that their number does not multiply. And everybody knows how they are treated, because when they get there, they are not treated like any other white Jews. So it is not just about Judaism, it is about Zionism. There's a sharp difference between Judaism, which is a religion, and Zionism. And that is one thing people need to get very clearly. You can have a black man who believes in Judaism as a religion. It doesn't mean that he believes in Zionism. Zionism is a political movement, but Judaism is a religion. That you have anybody, black, white, and any person can do that. And if you observe, those who are leading the charge to fight against Zionism and the genocide that we experience in Gaza, majority of them are Jews. Sanders, Bernie Sanders is a Jew. As a matter of fact, the primaries that the Democratic Party just had in New York, New York, majority, about 15% of the population in New York are Jews. But they supported a person who condemned what is happening, you know, in a Muslim. Last point, apart from Israel, the only country that you have a lot of Jews living is in Iran.
That is
they have almost 25%.
That's the largest Jewish population
in Iran,
outside of Israel.
In Iran, the largest. So it has nothing to do. Yet, and the areas that are bombing, majority of the areas Israel attacked are the areas that you have a lot of these Jews residing. And so I'm saying that we should look at them. Ghana's opposition is non-aligned. In fact, apart from the UP tradition, which at the OAU voted to support apartheid South Africa, Ghana had a position, Africa had a position, and it was only Ghana under the UP tradition. They went to OAU meeting and voted in support of the killing of black South Africans. So, oh yes, it's documented. Business government supported and voted for it against the position of every country in Africa. But so it is not surprising that you had President Nana, who proudly stated that we stand with Israel against the foreign policy position. And it is not for nothing that we have taken that position in support of the people of Palestine, because it reminds us of our experiences. And that is why politically, even at the time when Buzia did that, there were people within the UP party who were against that position. Yes, today, because our experiences should guide us. We have been subjugated, and we have experienced colonial subjugation, just like the people of Palestine. So our position, our foreign policy position, in consistently supporting Palestine when it comes to Palestine and Israel, and taking a non-aligned position when it comes to the geopolitics of the world, it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with our experiences.
Okay.